Alright guys, welcome back to Underground Science, and in this video we'll be talking about what a motor unit is, okay? So make sure to go and check out my lower motor neurons video, because once you're done watching that video, this video will make a whole lot of sense, and I'll try to keep this video short, alright? Because in reality, there's not much involved with the motor unit, because right now let's just say what it is and we'll actually see it in a drawing and in a picture, alright? So a motor unit is pretty much a lower motor neuron. A lower motor unit involves a lower motor neuron, all right, and whatever or how many ever target cells, in this case, how many ever skeletal muscle cells it's synapsing on, all right, so skeletal muscle cells, all right, skeletal muscle cells. All right, so that's pretty much what's involved in a lower or in a motor unit. A lower motor neuron right here, and how many ever skeletal muscle cells that lower motor neuron, that single lower motor neuron is synapsing on. Okay, so let's go and look at a sketch that if you watch my many videos in the nervous system playlist, I pretty much used the same sketch. Let's go and use that same sketch again. All right, so let me go and open another page for that. All right, so here we are. So lower motor neuron, if you remember from my lower motor neuron video, is that it can either start in the brainstem or it can either start in the gray matter of the spinal cord. All right, its dendrites and its soma or cell body of the neuron itself. So for this example, let's go and look at, or for this video, let's go and look at a neuron that starts in the gray matter of the spinal cord. Right, so let's say we have the gray matter of the spinal cord right here. All right, so all of this right here is just a zoom up version of just one of the vertebrae of the spinal cord. And if you zoom into the actual spinal cord tissue, right, we have gray matter all in here, okay, and then we have white matter all around it, okay. So we have our anterior white columns, our dorsal white columns, and our lateral white columns, and then we have our again the same thing, anterior gray horn. Right, notice I'm saying gray horn this time because it's gray matter, right? And our lateral gray horn, posterior gray horn. All right, so that's our spinal cord. Okay, so let me go and label the one we're going to be focusing on today, which is the gray matter of the spinal cord. So this is going to be our gray matter. All right, and so again, like we've been doing in the previous videos, at least in the lower motor neuron video, right? Remember, we have our soma starting in our gray matter of the spinal cord, and then we have a bunch of dendrites, a bunch of projections that receive our electric signals, and then we have an axon projecting out, right, starting at our axon hillock or our trigger zone and projecting out, and we're going to say synapses, let's say on our bicep or our triceps, right? Let's say synapses on our triceps. Let me draw a better synapse. Say synapses on a tricep muscle, all right? So let's say that muscle looks like, let's go and draw it like this. Okay, I don't know, that looks like a potato, but hopefully it looks somewhat like a muscle. And we're gonna draw our striations, because remember, skeletal muscle is striated, right? So let me go and write that down. Again, we'll look at more into muscles, like the step-by-step muscle contraction. All right, so how muscle contraction works and all that in our muscles playlist for physiology. So, so skeletal muscle is one thing we said that was important to know, is that it's striated. All right, so let's go and write that down. So that's a good thing to know. So let's say this is our tricep muscle. All right, so this is our triceps. That's where we're at the gym getting some gains, right? Bumping out, like, I don't know, close grip bench press or something for our triceps. And so what a motor unit is a motor unit you define as how many muscle cells does one motor unit synapse. If you answer that question, that's your motor unit. So motor unit's always going to involve just one lower motor neuron, and then you count how many muscle cells it synapses. Okay, so if it synapses like a bunch of muscle cells here in the triceps, right? If one lower motor neuron synapses, let's say 5 muscle cells in the triceps, then your motor unit consists of one lower motor neuron and 5 muscle cells. Right, so that's it. So let's go and write how to identify a motor unit. Right, so what a motor unit actually is, right, that now that we looked at it scientifically, is it involves a lower motor neuron. Right, so lower motor neuron, and then we're also going to see how many muscle cells is associated with that lower motor neuron. So how many muscle cells does that lower motor neuron synapse? All right, so count, I mean, not really count, but we're just going to say the number of muscle cells that the lower motor neuron, that the lower motor neuron synapses. All right, so let's go and write that down real quick. So pretty much if, let's not draw the triceps muscle as a huge, like as a whole. Let's say we had, I don't know, our soma and our dendrites. And let's say our lower motor neuron projected its axon out and synapsed. Let's just draw muscle cells in green or something, right? So we had one muscle cell here, right, multinucleated, and then one muscle cell here, one muscle cell here. So let's say this was our motor unit, and someone asked us, what's the motor unit here? We would say one lower motor neuron, and then 3 muscle cells. That's our motor unit, because we have one lower motor neuron that's synapsing these 3 muscle cells. Okay, so it's a motor unit. All of these muscle cells will contract at once. When this lower motor neuron is stimulated, this lower motor neuron's job is to contract these 3 muscle cells at once. Okay, so that's pretty much what a motor unit is. It involves, again, one lower motor neuron, and then how many ever muscle cells that lower motor neuron synapses is called a motor unit. So like if you're doing leg day, you're activating like way more motor units than if you were doing like forearm day. I don't know if anyone does forearm day at the gym, but like if you activated your leg muscles, you're activating way more motor units, right? Rather than if you're like trying to move your fingers or something. Okay, because there's so many more motor units there, because it has to be it's not a precise movement. Okay, you have to contract a lot of muscle cells. You can even experience that in the gym too. Like leg day is so much harder than if you did like, I don't know, some forearm exercises rather than some reps of squats. Like you're activating so many more muscle or motor units rather than if you did like forearm curls or something, right? So that's the overview of motor units, and hopefully this video made sense to you guys, and stay tuned in my future videos where I'll talk about more cool topics about biochem, physics, and chem. And don't forget to hit that notification bell and like and subscribe. Alright, see you guys later, and stay safe.